Thank you everyone for joining us for today's PILI educational seminar on engaging with your community. We have an exciting panel for you today about consideration lawyers should make when engaging in their community, whether it's serving on Young Professionals Board, nonprofits board, or bar associations. We're going to talk through what our esteemed panelists have done when they've been thinking about engaging in their community in different ways. We have Rachel Arfa with us, who was appointed on as a commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Christina Guidon, who's the president of the Asian American Bar Association of Chicago, and Vincent Rizzo, who's the secretary of LAGBAC, which is Chicago's LGBTQ plus bar association. We're hoping to also have Jerrod Williams join us. There's been, some delay with him joining us, but hopefully he'll be able to join us later on. So first, let's begin getting to know a little bit more about our panelists. So if you would please each introduce yourself, share about your current position, and tell us a little bit about what motivates you to serve your community and the different ways that you're active socially, politically in your community. Rachel, let's start with you.
Thank you so much, Brent, for having me. My name is Rachel Arfa, and I'm Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. And I was appointed to this role in July of last year, so I'm coming up on almost 1 year with this role. I'm also provided that, and I communicate by talking and through the sign language. And here today we also see American Sign Language interpreter here joining us. Before this role, I was an attorney and equipped for equality for a decade. So when I worked there, I worked on employment discrimination, patient healthcare access, and civil rights violations. And I was also, until last year, the president of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Bar Association, and it's the National Bar Association for Deaf and Hard of Hearing attorneys. So we are spread all over the country, working various different fields and parts of the legal field. But one of the exciting things that we did was we wanted to increase visibility about deaf and hard of hearing attorneys. So I was in the first group of deaf and hard of hearing attorneys to be admitted to the bar of the United States Supreme Court. And, I have to joke that this is sort of a noted lawyer thing to do. I mean, you basically pay $200 and you got a piece of paper that says you're a member of the bar. But while I joke about it, I realize how powerful it is for the Supreme Court bar to have deaf and hard of hearing attorneys who are a member of the bar. It shows that we deserve to be part of this group, and that we are representing a part of the legal field, because unfortunately there are still many attitudes and assumptions about the potential of people with disabilities. So the more spaces that we're able to be in, the more we can challenge those assumptions and work towards being viewed as equals in the field. So 2 years after that Supreme Court ruling, when I became president, I led a group of 11 deaf and hard of hearing attorneys. I made the motion to swear them in as members of the Supreme Court bar. So I appeared in front of all 9 justices. And I made the motion of using both American Sign Language and English. Chief Justice Roberts, this pattern is sign language, signing who motion has been granted. And he stood up at the swearing of our bar association. So all of these steps are really important, and even more so in the legal field. So I think as attorneys, we have to use all the tools that we have to continue to advance progress in awareness.
For sure. Christy, please tell us more about your position and how you've been involved in the community.
Thanks, Brent. My name is Christina Guidon, and I'm actually in my last month as president of the Asian American Bar Association here in Chicago. However, I also have a dual role because I'm also currently the president of the National Filipino American Lawyers Association. That term ends in November, and I'm greatly looking forward to it because it's just been a pretty hectic the past year and a half or so. I guess currently I am an employee benefits attorney, in-house counsel at Allstate Insurance. So currently working from home, but I think in July we'll end up going somewhat hybrid. So I may end up having to go back out to Northbrook a little bit. But what motivates me to serve through bar associations? Honestly, I'll be very frank. I actually did not join any kind of bar association for the first 10 years of my career. I was really focused on being a very good trial attorney. I wanted to hone those skills. I wanted to practice my craft and really hone it to the point where I felt, okay, I feel like I'm really getting good at this. And then someone just kind of reached out to me and said, hey, there's an opportunity for you to join this big organization called the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association. So it's just a huge umbrella organization of just all these Asian attorneys, which, quite frankly, in my practice at the time, I had not really had that much experience interacting with. I really hadn't. And through that, I just kind of started going up the ranks in terms of leadership and whatnot. And it's a really interesting I think, a way to get involved in your community, because for the longest time, I just did not have any interest in engaging with any other APA attorneys. I really didn't. Likely because I was born and raised in Arkansas, and there weren't that many Asians in Arkansas outside of my family. But other than that, I think, bar association work is very rewarding. I think like many things, depending on what you put in, you get out, probably 10 times. And then I like how Rachel just mentioned, being barred with the United States Supreme Court. Actually, 3 years ago, I became barred with the United States Supreme Court. And while I actually am no longer in the courtroom, I think to Rachel's point, it is important that more individuals, whether you're, a person of color, part of the, LGBTQ community, just anyone that is not necessarily in a community that is broadly represented, it's good to show that you are a part of these bar associations and that you're barred, federally with the state different. Oh, hi, Jerrod. It's important to show that representation, that, attorneys come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. We're not just one way. The law is not just one way. We interpret it differently. And I think that's what makes our profession unique and just wonderful.
Thank you, Christy. Vincent, let's go to you next.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Vincent Rizzo. I don't know if we have anyone from the Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, but I actually was a PILI intern for the Chicago Lawyers Committee back in, this is aging me, but in 2011, somewhere around there. So I love the PILI program. It's a great program. So it's fantastic that you all are, to some degree, participating in the program. So I am a partner at Hinshaw & Culbertson, and I primarily practice labor and employment type work, including employment litigation, employee benefits, and just advising and counseling employers on a vast array of issues that come up through the employment relationship. Oh, great. I see someone is currently interning at CLC, so that's great. I love CLC. As Brent mentioned, I am the secretary of LAGBAC, which is the LGBTQ plus Bar Association of Chicago. We offer a vast array of programming. We offer networking to law students and attorneys. We offer mentoring to law students. So if anyone's interested in being a part of LAGBAC, please reach out. We'd love to have you. I'm also on the board of directors for Changing Worlds. Changing Worlds is an organization that offers programs to schools in the Chicagoland community that is focused on fostering inclusivity, affirming identity, and just enhancing cross-cultural understanding. And so we have teaching artists that go to schools throughout Chicago, teach these amazing programs. I've been involved somewhat in the development of programming to fit the new requirement that Governor Pritzker just signed, I think it was last year, that ensures that contributions of LGBTQ plus people are taught in public schools. And I think it needs to be taught prior to 8th grade. But anyways, so Changing Worlds is an awesome program. I'm a part of that. The reason I got involved, like Christy mentioned, I was not heavily involved in any organizations prior to me joining Hinshaw and Culbertson. And I will also be frank with you all. The reason I started joining bar associations is really, I would say, for networking purposes. That was the initial reason I joined. I was working for the city of Chicago's law department for a number of years prior to going private. And, when you go private, there's a need to develop business and network. And I think a bigger need when you're at a private firm. So anyway, so that was how I started. But now it's really about my passion for LGBTQ rights and advancing those rights to any extent I can, and just exposing, and raising an awareness to the many issues that are unique to the LGBTQ plus community.
Great, thanks, Vincent. Jerrod, tell us more about your involvement in the community and what motivates you.
I'd be happy to. First of all, my apologies to everyone for being late. Technical issues. My name is Jerrod Williams. I am a past president of the Cook County Bar Association, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, is an African American bar association. It's the oldest in the nation. I also serve on the Illinois State Bar Association Steering Committee on Racial Inequality and the Joint Minority Bar Continuing Legal Education Planning Committee in terms of legal work. In terms of community work, I am a member of the board of directors of an organization called Austin Coming Together, which is a community service organization in the Austin neighborhood of Chicago. I'm also on the board of directors of the South Austin Neighborhood Association. I'm the co-chairperson of the Economic Development Task Force of Austin Forward Together, which is a quality of life plan that was developed in Austin for development across many different issues areas, including economic development, public safety, education, and civic engagement. So I am involved in several organizations or activities. They cover I think, relatively broad range of activities, from the purely legal to the purely community to a little bit of crossover. And actually there's a degree of crossover between all of them, between having the knowledge and skills of an attorney to be able to employ those knowledge and skills in many different areas. It is something that we talk about, but that I've actually experienced to be true. So that's a little bit of what I do. What motivates me are issues that I care about. Now, initially, I will gladly confess, along with Vincent and Christy, that something, you know, you start to do these things because you think they may be good for you professionally. You may meet the right people, get the right experience, something of that nature. But I will also agree that what I found is that sort of once you get into a particular issue area, you become passionate about it. So, for example, I began my journey through the Cook County Bar Association up through the ranks by getting involved in its judicial evaluations program. Just really briefly, for those of you who don't know, in Illinois, judges are elected. So those judges are screened more or less by various bar association groups, including ABA and LAGBAC. We're all members of an organization called the Alliance of Bar Associations for Judicial Screening. We screen those candidates and then we rate them more or less up or down for the public to then use that information to go and vote on. So that was my entry into the Cook County Bar Association. And again, for like very selfish reasons. At the time, I wanted to be a judge. And people will tell you, if you want to be a judge, then you need to first be on your Judicial Evaluations Committee so you can get a peek behind the curtain. As I started to learn more about the process, and I had always had sort of a recognition of the importance of judges in communities, particularly underserved communities, which initially led me, that's what led me to want to be one. But then when I started learning more about the process of selection, then it was an eye opener, quite frankly, and I just became really passionate about that. So despite being, you know, moving up through the ranks, all the way from being on the Judicial Evaluations Committee to chairing the Judicial Evaluations Committee to being on the board of directors that votes on the recommendations of the Judicial Evaluation Committee to being the president of the organization that puts out the judicial organizations. Having done all that, I'm still involved in judicial evaluations to a degree, just because you get in it and you get passionate about it. So that's one thing that has been a motivation to continue to do that work. I also really enjoy the process of education. I'm an adjunct professor at Loyola. I started getting involved in continuing legal education at the Cook County Bar Association. I just have a passion for sharing knowledge with people, and CLE gives me an outlet for that. So I'm also still involved in, so that's how I got involved in the Joint Minority Bar CLE conference, including moving up from being someone who was planning a panel at the conference to actually now being a chairperson of the committee that puts on the conference, and having the opportunity to make it more impactful. So that's the other thing that motivates me, is how much of an impact can I actually have? Like, what can I actually do? So if it's an organization that either I can't help, number one, or number two, isn't going to do anything, I wouldn't really be motivated to join it. But if I see an organization that really has the opportunity, or at least the drive to want to accomplish something, and I feel like I can help that process, that motivates me strongly to get involved with that organization. Hence, personal example, the South Austin Neighborhood Association, which is the community I grew up in. I grew up on the west side of Chicago in Austin. And just as a community member, you know, liking my community and having sort of a servant's heart, I guess you could say, I started going to just local community meetings, and I saw an organization, you know, with potential that seemed to be trying, and I thought, you know, I thought, you know, well, maybe there's something I can do here. So I started getting involved with that organization, and similarly with the other Austin organization, Austin Coming Together as well. So I don't know what my time frame was, and I could just keep going on, but those are sort of the broad strokes of who I am and why I do what I do.
Perfect, thank you. So as you all have heard, we have a very impressive group of attorneys here. I'm excited to hear them delve into the questions that I have for them, but I want to make sure that you all get the answers to the questions that you have. So, you know, please, if you have questions, chat them to me. Happy to have them happy to ask them for you, or for you to unmute yourself and ask our panelists yourself. But I want to make sure that you all get the session, get the most out of the session that you can. So let's kind of start at the beginning. Rachel, and let's start with you for this next question. So you're, a new attorney or a law student, starting to think about getting more civically engaged. What questions have you asked yourself, or do you think that you should ask yourself before joining a bar association or a community or political group?
That's a great question. So first, before you do anything, I think that you need to ask yourself, what am I so passionate about that I will get up in the morning into what gets me going? What do I think about at night? What will get up in the morning? Me up in the morning, being so excited about others. We always hope to get that from our jobs, but sometimes sometimes our jobs don't always do that. So in anything you do, standing work should be an issue, an area that you absolutely done. So for example, one of my passions is going to live theater. I very much miss being by a ticket, going to certain areas, watching performers perform on stage, and I can't wait to do that again as we reopened in the very near future. But because I'm a deaf person, I also need for theater to be accessible. And so what I'm very passionate about is advocating for our cultural spaces to be accessible, your theaters, museums, outdoor spaces. And so I became involved with other people who are also passionate about doing that work. And through those experiences, I've been able to meet other people who care about the same things than I do, and to make progress and work together. But and I was also able actually to incorporate that with my previous job, because it was part of accessibility. And you got to meet a whole community, both in Chicago and nationally, who are also advocates for cultural accessibility. And it turns out those are all very valuable experiences that are an asset to my current role. When I think back to the kind of advocacy I did in college, it was very much along those similar lines. So you should be able to look back pretty far, either in high school or college, and think, what do I really care about? If you would find that trend, and I think that often we don't listen to ourselves, and we don't listen to our gut. What really keeps us going. We do the things that we think we should do, or you would look on our resume, or you would hope this, but nothing speaks louder than when you are genuinely excited about being in a space. So I would encourage you to shape your civic engagement with that in mind, and that will always carry you far.
Christy, what considerations did you make, or do you think others should make that maybe you didn't even?
Well, I think COVID has taught everyone, if it hasn't, try to be mindful of this. Why, if you're passionate about an issue or a topic, make sure that if you are going to get involved with a board or a community or a political project, that this is something that you do not mind spending your free time on. Okay. It's important to remember that, because we all have a paying job that requires us to be there and spend time and effort and energy. So any other volunteer, which most of these boards are volunteer, this is your free time now. And so with that come the same frustrations as your paying job, but you're not getting paid, right? COVID has taught me that there are only specific issues and causes, and quite frankly, people that I want to be around. right? Before COVID, I was extremely involved in a lot of boards, which a lot of people I think do, which I think is great. But after a while, some of those events were becoming more obligations, and it was more about when can I duck out? I've made my appearance, when can I leave? And that's truly not going to be the best way to really be involved. Also, you have to kind of keep in mind that, if this is a board or an organization or a project that I want to be a part of, have you gone to events that organization has already put on before on that topic, on that issue? If you really haven't gone and kind of just participated as just a general member, as a member of the public, why is it that you want to actually be on the board now? Why is it that you want to lead? Why is it that you want to be a chair of something, right? If you are just kind of going in there blind, then you might not really understand truly what the organization is about. To that point also, this past year, a lot of the topics and issues that have always been advocated for, more equality, became heightened during COVID because of all the social injustice that came to the forefront and people are now paying attention to. Again, that's going to be more of a demand on your time when certain things, unknown things, happen like that. And so it's got to be something that, to Rachel's point, that you're passionate about, but that you're also willing to give of your free time, because this will be, for the most part, volunteer, and it's time away from family, time away from extra work that you could be doing if you're trying to make partner, if you're trying to climb that corporate ladder, if you're trying to make judge. This will take away from that free time of other areas where you may want to excel. So I think those are just, some of those were some of the considerations I had as well going into my, involvement with our organizations.
Great. Vincent, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I totally agree with Rachel and Christy on every point they made, and just to kind of maybe highlight some things that they've said. So especially Christy's point. So don't just join an organization just to join it. I mean, at some point you're going to get a lot of opportunities, right? That are offered to you. And I will tell you, I was like, yeah, I'll do it, and just motivated to kind of just get involved. But there will be opportunities that are presented to you that you actually will want to take. And so you really need to figure out which ones you want to commit your time to. You just don't, you can't handle, being on 6 boards, right? I mean, I think the best approach is to figure out which board you really want to commit your time to, instead of, being on all these boards and having 7 organizations on your resume. I mean, it may look good, but at the end of the day, you probably won't have enough time to commit or sufficient time to commit to 6 organizations. So just another note, the people, I mean, seriously, I think you got to know who the people are in the organization. When I go to meetings for LAGBAC or events for LAGBAC, it's a blast. We're working, but it's a blast. They're all my friends and it's fun. It's a fun dynamic. We have fun events. Of course, it's time consuming at times, but it's fun because of the people. And so I think that's important when you're doing something in your spare time. You want to be having fun. You want to be enjoying it, like Christy said. So, look at the leadership and look how active the organization is. I mean, maybe the organization isn't very active, and, maybe that meets your needs. But if you're looking to get involved in an organization and maybe, have an opportunity to learn and grow, you want to join an active organization. And so just kind of see, how many events they've had in the past year, and et cetera, et cetera.
Great. Jerrod, what are your thoughts on initial things folks should think about as they're joining community groups? Oh, you're muted.
Thank goodness for that little alert that pops up that says you are muted. Well, I'll just speak from personal experience, and Christy touched on this. I believe you have to understand your capacity. And when I say that, certainly your time commitment to various activities is a part of that, but there's an additional element, and here's where I'll speak from personal experience. So I work for the government. I work for the state of Illinois, which means my job prohibits me from giving anyone any type of legal advice ever. That includes a board of directors. Now, every time I've been asked to be on a board of directors, I make it a point to tell them, it's like, I would love to join your board. I love the work that you're doing. I cannot be your lawyer. You cannot bring me on your board to give you legal advice. And I always tell them that right up front. And then when we get to the first meeting, they always say, well, let's ask our lawyer. Or let's ask, they may not say our lawyer, but they say, let's ask the lawyer that legal question. And then, you find yourself in a quandary. And so it's, not violating your ethical rules and jeopardizing your entire career in life is not worth service on any board. So just be mindful of that. The other sort of more substantive capacity issue, again, is one that I'm facing. Is I talked about my community organization back in the Austin neighborhood. And the big project that they were doing was something I referred to briefly called a quality of life plan. And initially, when I became involved in that process, it was great. I mean, we were doing a lot of planning, which was a lot of, looking at documents and writing up proposals. And then we would have meetings in the evening. And that was no problem. I mean, it was a lot of time. It was a huge time commitment. So Christy and Vincent and Rachel, they're all correct about that. It is time. It's like a second job that you don't get paid for. So you really have to be passionate about it. But it was manageable. Now, however, and this is the issue that I'm experiencing, is that same project that I started, where I came in on, is now moving into a different phase. And that phase is not its development phase, but its implementation phase. And that requires a whole different set of time commitments. That requires meetings with business organizations and other organizations that do this work like 9 to 5. So that, of course, they want to meet 9 to 5. And of course, I can't. So now it becomes, now what? So whereas before we were doing planning and I could do that after work or in the morning or on the weekends, and it was no problem because I could sit at my computer and write up a memo and shoot it out. It was great. Now it's like, well, now you have to go meet with, this workforce development partner who trains, youth how to do woodworking. It's like, when you want to meet, how about 10? I'm like, no. So that's something that you may not initially be aware of, but may become an issue. So that's another capacity issue that you may have to deal with. So I guess my nutshell advice would be to just make sure that you have the capacity before you join an organization, because not so much, and it's even not so much that they'll be mad at you, because they will understand and they'll get it. I found them to be very forgiving in that regard. Like, I have an overwhelming sense of personal guilt. And I've expressed to my organizations, like, I'm not getting the job done. Do I need to step down? They're like, no, we understand you're busy, you're doing your best. And I'm like, but I'm just not getting it done. Because once you start to get passionate about this stuff, you're going to want to get it done. And if you can't, it's just, it's not going to feel good.
Great. So this is a part of question from the chat, and then I'm going to add on part that I had. So let's go into exactly what kind of work you're doing in these groups. I think that's a large question for students is, what are the expectations? Is it legal work? Is it recruiting other volunteers, fundraising? So maybe tell us a little bit more about what kind of work you're actually doing. And then what's the impact that it's been for you personally and professionally? Rachel, can we start again with you?
Sure. Jerrod brought up a really good point, and I should also mention is that I really work for the government. You may have different ethics requirements that prevent you from joining organization. So actually, when I came into this role, I stepped out from other organizations that I was a part of. I finished up my term as the president of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Bar Association. But that is something to keep in mind that where you work may have an impact on the type of service that you can provide. Second, when you graduate from law school and you become an attorney, you are going to be in demand because every organization is going to think, oh, we could have legal advice, we could have a lawyer on our board. But just because you're asked to serve as an to join a board does not mean you have to fill that role as an attorney, just like Jerrod said, in boards have out of patrol. One of my the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Bar Association was a newer bar association, and I was the second president of the bar association, so I was very focused on building the board, formalizing it, and then I also spent a lot of time planning the group trip to Washington, D.C. for the Supreme Court swearing, and then as the pandemic hit, we pivoted to being able to connect more. It's a nice silver lining through the pandemic, but I wanted you should feel the power to take out whatever role you want it can do. It is a nice way to learn new skills. For example, if you at your job, you're stuck at one role, a board service may be a nice way to explore a new role. For example, if you always wanted to try fundraising, you could become a fundraising chair of the bar association. If that's a good way to develop skills, where you could do outreach, plan a fundraiser out of those leagues. So make sure to think about what skills you want to acquire. And sometimes that could become an asset to your employer, even though you're not doing it for your employer. You could say, I've had this experience, and refer to that.
And Christy, what are your thoughts?
And just so I remember, you asked two questions. What type of work
what actual work you're doing, you know, as part of bar associations and other community groups, and then the impact that it's had on you personally and professionally.
Sure. Okay. So let me preface this by saying when you plan on joining any kind of volunteer board, you will be expected to bring one, if not multiple, aspects. And I think, you know, for nonprofits, you'll hear time, talent, or treasure, right? So you either need to give of your time, which a lot of you, that's what you'll be doing. Talent, you've got certain skills, like Rachel indicated, you know, you've got certain skills that either you want to develop or you want to bring to the table. And, you know, I'm very good at, not me, but, you know, say for instance, you're very good at graphic design. Okay, then you may be called upon to do all of the board's graphic design work throughout the year, right? You're going to be their go-to. Or treasure, you seem to say, okay, no problem. Don't really have time, but you know what? I'll write you a check, you know, or you will be asked to fundraise. Now, for ABBA Chicago, we've been around for approximately 30 plus years. And so, fortunately for me during my presidency, it was somewhat easy, right? I kind of came into this role with the mantra of, look, just don't crash the car, okay? As long as I'm not running this organization into debt and I am fundraising, a nominal amount to kind of keep us going, then I think we're fine because we've got plenty in the coffers, right? Also, because of COVID, it really just kind of reduced the amount of money we were spending initially. But that also left a lot of time for my board to really focus on a lot of the APA issues that were really coming to the forefront during COVID. So we spent a lot of time, at the beginning of my presidency, it was the end of Gary Zhao's presidency. That's when, the APA hate, anti-Asian hate attacks started, but then that was also, again, at the beginning of COVID. And so we were doing a lot of outreach to the local hospitals that were serving the APA community. So we would do fundraisers for those hospitals, at the very beginning of COVID, when we, would send food or money to, the frontline workers, while we were all at home, there were frontline workers that were still out there, pre-vaccine and whatnot. And then it kind of shifted to, social, drafting statements, putting out a lot of statements, and then also collaborating with other organizations, both legal and non-legal, in the APA space. And it kind of culminated last month during APA Heritage Month with the ABA Chicago basically multi-bar forum that we had called Breaking Down Silos, which your very own Pili member, Sang-Yup Lee, coordinated. This was his brainchild. That forum brought together probably one of the largest collections of bar association leadership to kind of really to have frank discussions about these issues that have just kind of been simmering under the surface and what we can do better in terms of a collective, right? Because we're all at, kind of like the title of the forum was breaking down these silos. Each of these bar associations, minority bar associations, were kind of just working towards their own agenda. And instead of, getting a lot of headway that way, why don't we kind of break down these silos, break down these barriers, and work together to collectively push forward all of these issues that are all extremely similar, right? And I think by being involved at this time, at this place, was extremely important for me because, again, coming into my presidency, I was just thinking, don't have to crash the car. No, I'm not really having to do much. ABA Chicago is pretty much, established. You're solid. It's good. And then it just turned on its head. So it really made me, again, someone being from the South who did not have a lot of exposure to other APAs, really opened my eyes to bigger issues that a lot of my colleagues have been dealing with for decades, for years. So, and then again, on a national scale with NFALA, the National Filipino American Lawyers Association, that also, brought it to another level because now I'm having to basically deal with issues not just within the city of Chicago, but across all 50 states and what those issues are facing Filipino American lawyers. So a lot of it, it has probably changed me for the better. I didn't realize that I would be this passionate about these issues because, unfortunately, sometimes you just don't see them even though they're right in front of your face. But then when it's, kind of shouting at you and being on the board, being on leadership, you will have many days where people will reach out to you and say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? So again, kind of going back to the last question, if this is if these are issues that you're passionate about and you are willing to give of your time, it is completely worth it. But it has to be something that you're going to be okay with giving your all because you will be pulled in multiple directions. It's demanding, but it's a good demanding.
Thanks, Christy. Vincent, tell us a little bit more about the actual work that you're doing and then what you get out of it.
Yeah, so I think in terms of what work is going to be involved, really depends on the type of organization. And the reason I say this is because I'm on involved in multiple organizations, but the bigger ones are Changing Worlds, which is, they have a staff, right? They provide substantive products. They have teaching assistants going to schools. And then I'm on LAGBAC, which is a bar association. So for Changing Worlds, my primary involvement is fundraising. So I'll host events at my house or in various parts of Chicago to raise funds for the organization. And so that I would say be my primary efforts with Changing Worlds. I do provide some legal advice to them. They're not a legal organization, so they love that I'm a lawyer and that I can provide them free legal advice, right? And so I do some of that, and I also am helping develop their programming related to the LGBTQ plus community. As it relates to the bar association, so LAGBAC, it's much different. What I do every day or every week for the organization is much different. It's a lot of meetings, right, with the executive board or the broader board. planning events, right? I mean, networking events or mentoring programs. And as Christy touched on, we do develop and draft LAGBAC positions on certain issues, or, you know, support letters, or, you know, I mean, the executive board really is the face of LAGBAC. So whenever we release some sort of statement on any issue, I'd be part of drafting and approving that letter. In terms of what I've personally gained as a result of being involved in these organizations, I would say, honestly, with regards to LAGBAC, it really is amazing to see LGBTQ lawyers, especially at these larger events. You just see, and allies, but you know, you see people that are just like you, right? And you go into these events such as Lavender Law, right? And you're like, holy cow, there are so many LGBTQ plus attorneys, and it makes you feel comfortable being yourself outside work and at work. And I think for me, that has been really impactful, just seeing that there are so many people like me in this practice, right? In the legal field. And so I think it really has allowed me to be my authentic self at work and outside work.
That's great. Thanks, Vincent. And Jerrod, how about you? What kind of work, describe the kind of work that you're doing, although I think you did a little bit of that before. And then what you're personally and professionally getting out of it.
Well, the point I'll elaborate on, because I did describe it briefly before, is the diversity of the work. Everything from the purely legal with the Joint Minority Bar Continuing and Legal Education Committee in planning continuing legal education courses for attorneys, to the completely non-legal, being, for example, in my case, a task force that is implementing various strategies to conduct economic development on the west side of Chicago. Now, certainly, you know, my training and experience as an attorney, I can utilize, but the work itself is not legal at all. But it is something, and this now gets into what impact it's had on me. It is something that I've always had an interest in. I have had an interest in community economic development. I've had an interest in community civic engagement. In my professional life, I did not have the opportunity to do those things. Now, in my volunteer life, I do. So one thing that I think serving on boards gives you, has given me certainly, is the opportunity to explore those other parts of yourself that you may not get to do on a day-to-day basis. The other thing that it's given me, and this is something that may be relatable to others, is that, you know, we've all chosen to enter what is at its heart a service profession. We are servants. We're servants to the public. We're servants to our clients. And a lot of people go to law school with, you know, very noble goals that, you know, I'm going to be an environmental lawyer and I'm going to save the planet, or I'm going to be a civil rights lawyer and I'm going to right wrongs. Then you get in trouble for your debt, and you got to get a job. And they don't pay, those other jobs don't pay as well. So you have to make sacrifices, again, a little bit, you know, to being like your other self, like your full self. Sometimes you do have to sacrifice some of those things professionally. And by the way, there are plenty of people who've actually followed through on those things. Chicago's Lawyer Committee on Civil Rights being an outstanding example of, you know, people who are like, no, I'm going to change the world, and you are. So shout out to you. But for all of us, for 100% of us, that's just not realistic. So volunteerism, however, gives you an opportunity to follow through on some of those driving passions that you may not get paid money for, but you certainly get dividends for both for your personal life, your knowledge and experience. It can be quite rewarding in other ways. And that's what is also given to me. Like I have this whole other side of me that wasn't being fed, as they say nowadays. And this gives me an opportunity to feed it.
So with the 5 minutes left, let's touch on if there are any opportunities for law students to be involved in your bar associations or other groups that you're engaged with. And then looking back as a law student or young lawyer, if you have any piece of advice or quick tips that you would want to impart on this group. Rachel, you want to start again?
As a student, I was not very informed because I wanted to focus on school. And I also at this moment just wanted to do a shout out to other pretty brother who was studying for the bar exam. I admire you for chuckling both, and but even at that road, you need to know how to manage your own schedule. So number one, I would do something that's fun, and but also find your support network, because you're coming out of the school where you should be beaten down for 3 years by professors who would try to suck out of your confidence. And so early in the career, you want to start to rebuild some of that confidence back up. And so make sure to investigate and which opportunities you want to invest your time in.
Thank you. Christy?
I'm sorry, I'm completely blanking on the first question. I know the second question, but I'm blanking on the first.
No worries.
Oh, how can
law students get involved?
Yep, yes, of course. Okay.
It's my fault for combining two questions, always.
I will put in the chat both of the websites for ABA Chicago and Infala, right? But obviously, you're going to find most organizations already have, they'll have a specific committee just dedicated to law students and helping develop law students and reaching out to law students. I know ABA Chicago, we've had specific law student mixers where we just invite the APA law students that we know of. We say, if you know of any other APA law students, let us know, and then, bring them to this event. And then you're usually paired up with one or two of the attorneys. And then that way you get to know more of us. But then also it's just, kind of a fun way to get to know people, get to know you, and, feel us out. We'd love to have you more involved. And obviously, if you've got, if you're a law student and you're very passionate about writing, if you're passionate about fundraising, if you're passionate about, social planning, trust me, there is going to be a place for a law student. Trust me, you will always find law student volunteers at ABA Chicago events because, that's kind of free labor, right? But it's also a development for us in terms of those are potential future board members, right? You always have to you will find this out if you get on a board. You are always going to be talking about pipeline development. Who's in the pipeline to take over? Christy can't be here forever. Jerrod can't be here forever. Vincent can't be here forever. Rachel can't be here forever. So who's going to come and kind of take over once we're gone, right? So we're, all bar associations, all organizations will always love having law students. Also, just for you law students as well, a lot of times if you volunteer at certain events, then that means you can get in for free. That means you also can get certain discounts at certain events. I know that when NAPABA, which is the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, when they were here, if you were a law student and you volunteered to work that convention, which hosted basically about 3,000 APA attorneys from across the country, you did not have to pay for the registration. You didn't have to pay the $1,000 registration for that 3-day event. You got to go to everything for free. So it is absolutely, a great time to be involved with bar organizations and whatnot if you're a law student, because we know that you all are probably on loans. You don't have too much, money to spare. So we're trying to do everything we can to keep you. And then, now I've blanked on the second. But parting wisdom, when you've got attorneys who are willing to speak on panels and they come, trust me, attorneys will always have something to say. We love hearing ourselves speak. So please ask questions. We're here to help you, because we've been down the path that you're going, and we want to make sure that you all are set up for success. And anything we can do to help you advice-wise, career-wise, I think we're all here to help.
Thanks, Christy. Vincent, final thoughts?
Yeah, so like Christy mentioned, LAGBAC also has similar programs. So please, if anyone is interested in joining LAGBAC, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about the organization, gauge your interest, let you know about any upcoming events, or email you when we do have an event that you may be interested in. So please reach out. But more broadly, we have some mentoring programs for law students as well as recent grads. So if you're interested in the mentoring program, also please let me know. But just come to our events, just see what we're about. Come say hi. Our organization is really friendly, really, I think, fun. But so just, please come. If you see an event, don't be hesitant to come. Don't be scared to come. I certainly was, as a recent grad. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anyone there, or I'm nervous, or whatever the case may be. But everyone wants you to be there. Everyone wants to meet you. They want to meet new people. They want to help. So, and that kind of gets me to my, I guess, ending advice, which is keep in mind, a lot of attorneys want to help recent grads and law students. I think, we all know lawyers are busy, or at least some of us. So, don't let that prevent you from following up with attorneys. We're busy, but listen, we're not that busy. Come on, we're willing to talk to law students. We're willing to talk to recent grads, and I think you're not going to be coming off needy or anything if you're reaching out to us. So please reach out, and know that people want to help.
Thanks. Jerrod, final thoughts for the session. Close us out.
Yes, and I'll be very brief, because I'll combine my getting started in bar association advice with my parting wisdom of what you should do to get involved and to help advance your career. They're the same thing. Do the grunt work. Do the grunt work. Copy the presentations, set up the events, make the phone calls. I can tell you 100% from personal experience, from coming into an organization, doing the grunt work. And this is my advice: do it happily, do it thoroughly, work hard at it, be cheerful about it. From doing that, from doing the grunt work, led to the presidency of the organization in a span of about 5 years. Our organizations, first of all, we need it. As Christy said, it's free labor. It shows your commitment to the organization. It shows your work ethic, and your reputation in this industry is everything. So if you want to get started, and the best piece of advice I could give you is do the grunt work and do it well.
Well, thank you. And thank you all, Rachel, Christy, Vincent, Jerrod. Thank you for joining us and imparting your wisdom on our group of law students. I dropped the link for the evaluation in the chat, and I know that a lot of links have been added for all the community groups and bar associations. So please visit those and engage in your community. Use the knowledge that you're gaining in law school to move forward and help our local, state, nation with everything that you're doing. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to all our panelists.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Take care.